Welcome to the Dairy News and Views podcast, a production of the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach Dairy Team. Our podcast covers current educational, research, and industry tools available for your operation to manage healthy cows and calves while producing the highest quality dairy products. Thanks for joining us today on Dairy News and Views from the ISU Dairy Team. I'm Jen Bentley, Northeast Iowa Dairy Field Specialist, and today I'm here with my Extension Dairy Team colleagues, Gail Carpenter, our State Extension Dairy Specialist, and Fred Hall, our Northwest Iowa Dairy Field Specialist. So welcome back to the podcast, Gail and Fred.
No, thank you. Always tickled to be here.
Tickled is a strong word, but I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks since we've kind of come together for a podcast, but we've all been really busy. And I decided I was going to invite you both on because want to hear what's been buzzing in the barn. So we've all been attending some conferences in the last few weeks and just thought we could recap and talk about some key takeaways we've been learning throughout the last couple weeks. I think people appreciate, learning what we learned, so we can share that out to our listeners here. And maybe to start it off, Fred, since yours was the first one that came up, was the Central Plains Dairy Expo. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about what was going on there and your dairy beef short course as well.
Absolutely. Well, it's a little different kind of an expo than what those of us who grew up by Madison think of, because there's no cows there. So it is a show where we have a lot of educational programs. We have a lot of booths and dealers and manufacturers there. So you can see about anything dairy related there. From our I-29 group, this was the 15th year that we had the Dairy Beef Short Course. It was one of our bigger ones. We filled the room to maximum. Fire marshal said no more. So that kind of puts a cap on things. But we had some really amazing speakers. And for the folks listening who maybe crossed from beef and dairy over their lifetime, if you remember back in the day, we would have the feedlot, and unless there was an injury, you just never saw a hoof issue. And in today's feedlot, lameness and hoof issues are a real thing. And we had a really amazing young woman who talked to us about that, Sarah Erickson. She's done a lot of research. She's got a lot of experience that I think really played well to those feedlot operators. We had Iowa State well represented. Gail talked to the group about calf management research, and Garland Dahlke talked about the crossbred animals in the feed out time period. So really interesting program there. I'll ask Gail the question of the programs that you listen to the next day and 2 days. What was the one that really caught your attention?
You mean at the Dairy Beef Short Course?
No, at the expo.
Oh, at Expo? I went to Minnie's talk. I saw a really great calf talk put on by FeedWorks USA, and I saw that same talk again at Tri-State, and she did a really great job of kind of talking about back to basics and the importance of calf health. Some of the same things that we've been talking about, and some of the same topics that I hit when I was doing my presentation at the Dairy Beef Short Course. I think a lot of times when it comes to calves, like, we're really trying to invest in the future of our dairy herd, and the idea of going low cost is not necessarily always the best option when it comes to making that investment for the foundation of your dairy herd. And in fact, some of our data that Garland presented too, looking at these beef on dairy crosses, shows that as well. So they found that with the study that Garland and I worked on together, that animals that had 2 or more respiratory diseases had a reduced carcass weight and a reduced earnings and reduced income. So we know from in the dairy industry that calf health pays off in lactation, and we know in the beef industry too that calf health pays off for those finished animals. So that was really so Minnie had some really great ideas too, and some practical ideas for calves and making sure that we're keeping those calves comfortable, making sure that they're not heat stressed and cold stressed, and making sure that we're providing good management and care.
Yep. One of the things I think that you realize when you man a booth, you don't get to see many of the programs. However, the fact that not everybody wants to see every program means that you have a lot of traffic. And I saw a lot of great Iowa breeders and producers, as well as folks from basically all over the upper Midwest, and had a chance to visit with a lot of them. And I guess the number one thing that I heard up there was, wow, we need more dairy heifers. They are pricey, they're just not available. And I think I could have sold multiple pots of pregnant heifers if I knew where they were, but that was a hot conversation.
Well, and maybe now's a good time to promote our website where we have some previous recordings of webinars that we've done. Because was it just last month that you had Victor Cabrera come on to our Dairy Team webinar to talk about the economics of heifers?
Yep,
or was that an
sure.
I-29 webinar?
No, that was Iowa
Okay.
webinar.
You do so many, Fred. It's
he was a great presenter. You know, he's got a lot of the resources there on his website, and he really walked it through so even guys like me understood what he was trying to point out.
Yeah. So if folks want to take a listen to that, you can go to extension.iastate.edu/dairy team/webinars. And we have it listed there under the 2025 Dairy Webinar Series, The Economics of Breeding for More Heifers. So I don't know, I always learn a lot when I listen to Victor.
Yeah, and I think that kind of ties into some of the information that I was gathering at the Dairy Calf and Heifer Association. I think economics was a big buzzword throughout all the conferences, it seems like. I attended a session that talked about things that might be hindering your profitability with raising heifers. And I wrote down the 5 things. They said 5 pitfalls hindering profitability. One is death loss. So if you're losing either heifers, could those have been animals, either beef that you could have, turned around on day one and made a profit on those animals, or are they heifers that could have been in your herd? So looking at, what kind of death loss do you have? Not really knowing how much it costs to raise your calves and heifers. So again, kind of going back to what's it costing on your farm to raise those heifers? And then maybe overinvesting. I thought this was kind of a different concept, overinvesting in equipment and labor to accommodate raising more heifers than you need. So I think we were kind of in this bottleneck of like, we have to build more facilities because we have all these heifers, but maybe it's the other way. Maybe because we don't need to raise all these heifers, or maybe we don't need all these facilities or equipment, right? So it kind of goes both ways depending on what your goals are for your operation. And then also if you're buying your replacements, so you sell your animals right away and then you buy them back, not necessarily setting aside money to purchase them back, because now we know that heifer prices are really high. And so if we set aside that money to bring back those good heifers back to the farm, and then that beef on dairy, right? So if we're raising too many replacements and maybe not capitalizing on that income from beef. So those are kind of the 5 takeaways on that profitability I thought were kind of interesting topics of discussion there.
Well, I am glad to hear that because that sounds right in line with some of the things that we've been talking about when we've been talking about, growing your dairy best heifer, and some of the webinars and articles and programming that we've done talking about that. And I at the Tri-State Conference a couple weeks after Central Plains, I gave a talk about kind of summarizing some of the messaging we've been doing around growing and developing heifers. And one of the things that we keep saying over and over again is grow enough heifers and grow them well. I think, when we talk about heifer rearing, we talk about calves, and we a lot of times we'll go to age at first calving and getting that age at first calving right. Because if we're calving heifers in at 25 months, that's probably a little too old for most farms. And you're having some additional costs there with that heifer rearing. And we kind of go straight to, well, if we're wasting money by calving them in too old, then we must try and calve them in as young as possible. And we know that's probably not right either, right? But I think, we spend a lot of time, it seems like, getting into kind of the nitty gritty details about age at first calving, and forget about this whole, like, every heifer that's born on your farm should have a shot at becoming a productive member of your herd, right? And that's getting mortality under control, like you said, Jen. But it's also, Fred, I know you and I have had this conversation before. It's not just hoarding and hanging on to every single heifer in your herd either. So if you have heifers, with chronic respiratory, or that have just kind of been poor doers or not very thrifty, like, that's probably not going to pay off. She's not going to pay for herself either. She's not going to last very long in your herd. And how much money are you dumping in that heifer by raising her up to first calving, only to get her off the farm before she has a chance to pay for herself? Oh, Fred, you're muted.
I think a lot of dairymen, have figured out that, that heifer's been treated 2 times or 3 times, and, it's not worth the feed to put into her to bring her into pregnancy and calf her out, because she's got too many strikes against her. And the other thing, as you were talking, I think we have to remember that age at first calving is a bell-shaped curve. And so if we have some at 26 or 27, okay, they were a little expensive, but they're probably going to be a profitable heifer. But when you get them down at that 21 and 22, have we really given them enough groceries to get them big enough and get them where they will catch up during that first, second, third lactation? So, I think we got to remember that there's 2 tails on that bell-shaped curve.
Yeah. And the smaller we can get those tails, the better, right? If we've got a bell-shaped curve that's really wide and flat, that's not good either. Even if you can have 2 curves with the same average, and you want a tighter curve as much as you can. Obviously, we're not going to have identical age at first calving for every single heifer on our farm, right? But
right.
The other thing, and I know you've heard us talk about this before, those who have been listening to our podcast or paying attention for a while, but mature body weight and knowing the mature body weight of your herd, and knowing how your heifers stack up when they calve is also really important in balance with age. So you need appropriate maturity, but you also need appropriate growth. So what a good age at first calving might be for one farm might not be the same for your neighbor. 23 months might be too young for you, but it might be, it might be something that works for your neighbor or vice versa. So yeah, it really depends on your heifer development program, as well as the mature body weight of your herd. And we're still welcome, we're still willing, if anybody wants to reach out and have somebody from Extension come to your farm and help you kind of collect those measurements and help you look through that data. We are still more than happy to do that. I know we're kind of getting off the topic you gave for us, Jen, which was to talk about conferences, but I did quite a bit of traveling, and now I'm back in the office, and I'm like, you know what? It wouldn't be bad to get out of Ames again. So I'm always excited to have a chance to go visit a dairy. So hit us up.
I'm sure everybody gets tired of, at least I say it a lot, but mature body weight isn't the weight you get when you send that load of misfits to the
Mhm.
packer. You know, those calves don't represent the productive cows in your herd. And yet you see a lot of guys. So, well, the last pot we sent out, they averaged this, well, doesn't tell me anything.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. Because those misfits, they're probably the ones who weren't milking very good and didn't get bred, so they're over conditioned, or they're the ones that aren't that are under conditioned, that they're not thrifty and unhealthy, and they're not standing on their own 2 feet very well. So yeah, we want a representative of the healthy cows in our herd.
Yeah, and that was some of the conversation too at the Dairy Calf and Heifer Association was they had I guess a producer panel of heifer growers and talking about communication with the dairy
Mm,
producer and the heifer grower. And sometimes there's not a lot of communication from the time that the dairy producer sends their heifer off to the heifer grower to the time that the heifer comes back. And I think there's a lot of good opportunity for, that producer to maybe make a visit to the heifer yard and get a good idea of what's going on with their heifers so that they're not surprised, good or bad, when they come back to the farm, right? So are they growing to match your mature body weight for your farm versus are they growing to what all the other heifers are growing on in that heifer yard, right? Because you're kind of combining all those groups of heifers and they kind of just get mixed in, right? So you kind of have to do some checking, and I think that's opening up those communication lines with those growers is very important.
The only communication that you see a lot of herds doing is making sure that yardage fee is there at the right time every month. And that's certainly appreciated, but that's not communication.
Yeah, I mean, what are you getting for that yardage fee, right? So,
Yep.
I mean, are you getting the growth for the fee? Those things are important. And there was one quote that one of the producers put was clarity is kind. So, making sure that you're clear on what your goals are for your operation and do they match what your heifer grower is doing?
You
sounds
know,
like some of the lessons we learned in Crucial Conversations play along
Yeah.
right here too.
so I know you talked about Tri-State and, heard some great research explained, but there's also a youth component. Tell us about the Iowa State and the youth component.
Well, so we don't call them youth. They're all adults. They're just young
I'm
adults.
sorry. Yes, it's a generational thing,
Yep.
a student component.
Yeah. So Tri-State does a really great job of pulling in graduate students and undergrads. They have a fantastic graduate student competition where grad students have a chance to present their research to a panel of judges and get scored, and they get prizes. And then they also do an undergrad program, and the undergrads do some professional development, and they can also participate in those competitions if they want to. But they do a little bit of professional development, listen to some talks, do some career roundtables, and they get to attend the conference. And the students are really well supported, so their rooms are covered. They get to attend the conference for free. It's very well done. And Iowa State usually has a group of students who, maybe want to get out of the classroom and do some real world learning for a couple days. And so we'll load them up into a van and take them out there. And we had a handful of students participate in that this year, and really enjoyed it. We also took along a couple grad students to participate in that competition. We had one grad student. She's a visiting scholar here. She's actually a PhD student at the University of Saskatchewan, but she's been here for a few weeks, learning from us here at Iowa State. And she placed second in the PhD division. So we were very proud of Claire. And we made sure she's Canadian. We made sure we stopped at the I-80 truck stop on the way back so that she could get the full Iowa experience. Because we found out that it wasn't actually on her bucket list. So we put it on her bucket list and then made sure we visited on the way. But our students there, I'm always really proud of how they it wasn't a competition, right? But they handle themselves well. They're professional. They're not just kind of sitting by themselves in the corner. They're out meeting people and making connections and learning. And so it's really always fun to watch them do that.
Well, can we shift gears and look forward a little bit? We've got our four-state Dairy Nutrition and Management Conference coming up in June. What are folks going to see with that? We've got some great speakers coming with that.
Yeah, we got to really, do you want to talk about the 7 Pound Club?
Yeah, that's, I was hoping you'd ask. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
It's
We
a
don't
good
even have
segue.
this is actually not scripted at all. We just know each other that well.
We, as the committee who works with that program, we really wanted a way that we could get the producers and consultants, nutritionists who are getting this really good production and good income out of these cows, that we could identify them and bring them to the conference and have them talk to us a little bit about what they were doing. And we came up with the 7 Pound Club, which is 7 pounds of solids in 100 pounds. And the consultant or the nutritionist will nominate their herd, and we will go through and confirm the information and rank them, and we'll have a couple of the top folks. We'll have some of the top folks tell us a little bit about what they're doing to get. And I understand that one of the first entries is actually over 8 pounds.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we debated whether to call it the 7 Pound Club, or we had a lot of, you'd be surprised, or maybe people wouldn't be surprised how much thought we give to very minute details. Like, should it be called the 7 Pound Club? Because, well, what if we called it the 7.5 Pound Club? Well, probably we could call it the 8 Pound Club, but then people who are under 8 pounds might not think they can participate. And 7.5 just doesn't have a good ring to it. But I think the important thing is we're going to have some very high performing herds, and it's going to be really interesting to hear some of their insights and get some producers involved too, and not just have big wigs sitting around talking behind the producers' backs.
And I think producers, hopefully this will focus that we share a lot of information that will be good for them. It's always, kind of focused on the nutritionist, but we do get a handful of producers, and we encourage producers to put it on their calendar and get to the program.
Yeah, so if people are interested in nominating somebody, the information is on the fourstatedairy.org website. It's called New High Production Herd Award, and it gives you the requirements, and looks like the deadline is set for May 6th to get that sent in to Jim Sulphur with the University of Minnesota. But Fred, it looks like this year it's open to herds in Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, and Wisconsin, so our four-state region there. But maybe in coming years, depending on how it goes, we may open it up wider than that, or is it,
Yeah, the expectation will be, we have to learn what we're doing this first year, and then these adjacent states will probably be invited to have herds nominated.
Yeah, we got plenty of high producing herds in that four-state region, though. We'll probably give them a run for their money.
Absolutely. Plus, now another segue is we also have a student competition, which I was not aware of, but to defend in a 3-minute speech just simply looks tough to me.
Yeah.
You know me, I like to talk. I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, we have a 3-minute thesis competition, and we'll have, I'm not sure, I haven't gotten the numbers from Derek to see how many people are signed up. But I know at least we have a couple from Iowa State that are going to be going and presenting. And basically the idea is you talk about your your thesis work, like your graduate work, in 3 minutes or less. And it's not just, talk really, really fast and be super technical. It's, make it an elevator pitch, make it accessible to folks who maybe aren't maybe haven't taken a statistics class in a while and are more worried about, okay, what's my take home message here? So it's giving that, translating the research work that a grad student's been doing into a take home message that nutritionists and producers can gain something out of and learn about what these students have been working on. So we think this is what, the third year we're doing it, I think.
Yep, third year.
And so it's been really a great opportunity for students to get their names out there, for nutritionists and industry to learn and meet these students who are going to be trying to get jobs before too long, and try and find the ones that are really talented and understand the science, but also understand how to talk to real people. And then we do a poster presentation as well, or a poster contest. And so they get a People's Choice Award. We basically, let students, you put your business card in the poster that you like the best, and have a little prize at the end. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's been fun to watch that grow over the past couple of years.
Yeah, and so this conference, the 4-State Dairy Nutrition Conference, is happening June 11th and 12th. So that's coming up. And it's also moved this year. So we are going to be in La Crosse. So maybe our listeners have known in the past it's been in Dubuque. And so we're going to see how the new location goes and host it there. And hopefully people will travel over the river and see us in La Crosse too, right?
Same river. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's the same driving distance or driving time pretty much. So, yeah, it's, same river, same, another conference center, but a beautiful conference center. And, we're excited to visit our friends up in Wisconsin. And then after that, my next conference that I'll be attending will be the American Dairy Science Association annual meeting. I've gone every year since 2009, except when it was virtual because of COVID. But I've been happy to attend in person every year since then. And this year, we're very excited that we have a recognition symposium for our own Dr. Don Bites. Anybody who has been in the animal science department or vet school, he's taught biochemistry classes over at the vet school as well here at Iowa State. And he's been here since, I believe, 69, I want to say. It's a very long time. And so we're going to have the opportunity to honor Don's contribution to the industry, not just in terms of his research, but also in terms of all of the students that he's had the opportunity to educate and mentor. So we'll hear from some of his former colleagues and students. And we're very excited to have a chance to honor him. So if anybody listening happens to have any good Don Bites pictures or Don Bites stories, I know that they are working on putting together a slideshow and are working on putting together potentially a book of letters to bind and send to Don. So if anybody wants more information about how to get any pictures or letters into that, feel free to shoot me an email and I can point you in the right direction. So my email is ajcarpen, CARPEN, @iastate.edu.
That's exciting. I think very well deserving, and look forward to hearing how that goes. And I think it'll be pretty cool to get those messages sent to Dr. Bites as well. So
yeah.
Lots of impact that he's had in his career.
We've figured thousands of students have been impacted by his teaching and his research, conservatively, just in terms of all the students he's taught. Yeah.
And he's still impacting students. He's still on campus.
Yeah. He is still on campus, still contributing. He's probably listening to me right now.
Well, I know we can't share all the information that we learned at all these conferences, but I think we hit some highlights here today of some pretty impactful conferences that we've been attending and have met with producers and other industry partners with the information. And so if anybody has any questions about what we talked about today, you can feel free to reach us via email or phone call. And then if you have any questions about the upcoming conferences, feel free to get a hold of us on that. Any last takeaways from Gail or Fred?
No, I'd say this weekend I'll be down in Ames. Get to see a cow show on Welch Avenue, something that's never been done before. And then be at the Dairy Science Club annual banquet.
Yeah, and Fred is being modest. He goes to the banquet every year, but he's being honored this year as our distinguished grad. So congratulations to Fred.
Thank you.
Very well deserving as well. And maybe we'll have a separate podcast just on honoring Fred here. So
He's still writing his speech.
that's right. All right. So I think we'll conclude here today. Thanks everybody for joining in, and we look forward to visiting with you on the next Dairy News and Views from ISU. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or combination inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/ext.